Everyone tells you to just let go. But that advice is missing one specific mental move. And without it, you're not letting go, you're just suppressing. People who figure out this move stop being held hostage by outcomes they can't control. People who don't keep white-knuckling through life wondering why nothing feels free. In this video, I'll show you number 1, why letting go, as most people practice it, is actually making things worse, and what the research says is happening instead. Number 2, the 2,500-year-old Vedic concept that describes real detachment with surgical precision, and why it has nothing to do with caring less. Number 3, the exact mental move that shifts you from gripping to releasing, a practice you can use today on the thing you've been carrying the longest. Let's get into it. A few years ago, I was talking to a guy, early 40s, successful by every visible measure, who told me he had completely let go of his divorce. He said it with total confidence. Then, 30 seconds later, he mentioned his ex-wife's name and his jaw tightened. His voice dropped half a register. He started explaining very calmly and very thoroughly exactly why she was wrong about everything. That's not letting go, that's letting go with your mouth while your nervous system keeps the grip. And most of us are doing some version of that. There's a psychological experiment you may have heard of. Researchers tell participants, whatever you do, do not think about a white bear. Just push it out of your mind. And what happens? People think about white bears constantly. The harder they try to suppress the thought, the louder it gets. This is called ironic process theory, and it's exactly what happens when someone tells you to just let go and you try to do it by force of will. You're not releasing the thing, you're wrestling it into a back room and hoping it stays there. It doesn't stay there. It comes out at 2 a.m. or when someone says the wrong name, or when a song plays in a grocery store and suddenly you're back in a moment you thought you were over. Psychologists who study this make a sharp distinction that most self-help advice completely ignores. They separate two things that sound similar but are completely different: detachment and non-attachment. Detachment, the unhealthy kind, is emotional shutdown. It's the guy at the party who says, "I don't care about anything," and means it as a brag. It's the person who stops feeling to stop hurting. Psychologists consistently link this pattern to depression, disconnection, and what's called experiential avoidance, the habit of escaping uncomfortable internal states instead of processing them. You're not free, you're numb, and numb isn't the same as free. Non attachment is something else entirely. It's full engagement without conditional peace. You care deeply, you show up completely, but you're not making your inner stability hostage to a specific outcome. Acceptance and commitment therapy, one of the most well-researched psychological frameworks of the last 30 years, has a phrase for this. They call it holding lightly. You hold what matters to you the way you'd hold a bird, close enough to feel it, loose enough that it can breathe. The moment you grip, you've already lost something. And the research on this is not subtle. People who practice non-attachment, genuine non-attachment, not suppression, show measurably lower anxiety, faster recovery from loss, and higher overall life satisfaction than people who either grip tightly or shut down completely. So the first thing to understand about how to let go of attachment is this. The goal is not to care less. The goal is to change the structure of how you care. And that distinction is everything. About 2,500 years of Vedic philosophy have been wrestling with exactly this problem, and they landed on a word that most people translate wrong. The word is Vairagya. It gets translated as detachment or renunciation, and the moment people hear those words, they picture a monk who has given up everything and feels nothing. That's not what it means, not even close. Prabhupada, one of the most precise teachers of this tradition in the modern era, made a clarification that I think is one of the most psychologically sophisticated ideas I've ever encountered. He said that Vairagya is not about withdrawing from action or from love. It's about changing the basis of your engagement. You act fully, you love completely, but you stop making your peace conditional on the results. Here's the contrast he drew. He described two ways of being in the world. The first he called fruitive action. You do things because you want specific fruits, a specific outcome, a specific response, a specific version of the future. Your well-being is downstream of whether you get that fruit. If you get it, you feel okay. If you don't, you suffer. Your inner state is entirely at the mercy of external events. The second way is what Vairagya points toward. You act from your nature, from your values, from love, but you release the attachment to the specific form the outcome takes. You're not indifferent to results. You're not pretending not to care. You're just not letting the results be the thing that determines whether you're okay. This is not passive. This is not resignation. If anything, it takes more engagement, not less, because you're no longer protecting yourself from full investment. You can give everything because you're not calculating the return. There's a line in the Bhagavad Gita that captures this exactly. Krishna says to Arjuna, "You have a right to perform your prescribed duties, but you are not entitled to the fruits of your actions." That line has been quoted 1,000 times and almost always misread as fatalistic, as if Krishna is telling Arjuna not to care about outcomes at all. But that's not the teaching. The teaching is about where you locate your stability, not in the outcome, in the action itself, in the quality of your engagement. When you understand Vairagya this way, it stops being a spiritual concept and starts being a practical instruction. It's telling you the thing you are calling letting go, if it means caring less or withdrawing, you are going the wrong direction. Real detachment in this tradition means caring more purely, loving more freely, acting more fully, because you've stopped using the outcome as the measure of whether it was worth it. And here's what that unlocks in terms of how to let go of attachment in practice. You stop fighting the attachment itself. You start examining what the attachment is protecting. So here's the part most people never get to, because most conversations about letting go stop at the philosophy. I want to give you the specific move, and I'm going to show it to you through someone I worked with. I'll call her Nadia. Nadia had been trying to let go of a friendship that ended badly for about 2 years. She'd done the journaling, she talked to a therapist, she told herself the story of why the other person was wrong so many times she could recite it in her sleep. And she still wasn't free of it. She knew this because every time she saw that person's name on social media, something in her chest tightened. When we talked, I asked her one question: what are you afraid would be true about you if you fully release this? She went quiet for a long time, and then she said that it didn't matter, that I didn't matter enough for her to fight for. There it is. That's what the grip is actually protecting. Not the relationship, not even the anger. A story about her own worth that she couldn't afford to let be tested. The attachment wasn't to the person, it was to the verdict she was afraid the loss confirmed. This is where the mental move lives, and it has 3 steps. Step 1: name what the attachment is actually protecting. Not the surface story, the thing underneath, the fear, the identity, the belief about yourself that losing this outcome seems to confirm. Most people never get here because they stay at the level of the story. She was wrong, I was right. That's not the wound. The wound is what the loss seemed to prove. Step 2: separate the event from the verdict. This is where Vairagya becomes a practical tool. The event happened, the relationship ended, the job fell through, the person left. The outcome wasn't what you needed, that's real. But the verdict: this means I'm not enough, this means I can't trust, this means love always leaves. That verdict is something you added. It's an interpretation, not a fact, and you can examine it. The question to ask yourself is this verdict actually true? Or is it the most painful possible reading of what happened? Because in my experience, when people grip an outcome this hard, it's almost always because they've let the outcome carry a verdict about who they are. And the grip is an attempt to reverse that verdict by controlling what happens next. Step 3, and this is the one that actually creates movement, is what I call re-anchoring. Instead of trying to stop caring about the outcome, you consciously move your sense of okayness to something that isn't outcome dependent. Your values, your actions, the quality of how you showed up, regardless of how it landed. This is Vairagya made practical. This is what ACT therapists mean by holding lightly. You're not releasing what happened. You're releasing the power you gave it to determine your worth. Nadia didn't need to decide her friend was wrong. She didn't need to stop caring about what happened. She needed to stop letting that friendship's ending be the thing that answered the question of whether she mattered. Once she found a different anchor for that, one that was actually hers to control, the grip started to ease. Not because she cared less, because she stopped needing that specific outcome to tell her something about herself. That's how to let go of attachment in a way that actually works. Not suppression, not indifference. A clean conscious shift in where you're locating your stability. That re anchoring step sounds straightforward when I describe it, but in practice, When it's your relationship, your loss, your specific grip, it can be genuinely hard to see where your anchor actually is right now. If you've tried versions of this on your own and you're still finding yourself pulled back to the same thought, the same tightness, the same story you can't seem to put down, the fastest way through it is usually a real conversation, not another video. I do free one on one calls, 30 minutes, no pitch, completely personal to your situation. We look at exactly where the grip is, what it's protecting, and what a real next step looks like for you specifically. You walk away with a clear direction, whether we ever talk again or not. The link to book is in the description at dailymindreset.com/consultation. If this kind of thinking is useful to you, subscribe. There's a lot more where this came from, and I want to hear from you. What's the one thing you've been trying to let go of the longest? What do you think it's actually protecting?